We were asked by the Flemish Architecture Institute for a theme from back of Japan to make an exhibition. As young officers, we were a bit uncertain about this possibility of trying to almost convince people, because that's usually what happens with paper architectural representational material, of the importance of our voices. So we thought maybe it would be more interesting, instead of doing that for an exhibition, to actually make a work and where the experience can inform people about what we do. So we made this pavilion in the courtyard of the Singel. This idea, I think, of rather making a work instead of trying to represent a work, also connects a bit to the bigger theme that's part of the theme for this interview series and lecture, which is Unspoken. So with Unspoken, I guess for us in this situation, also relating to what I just said, we ask the question, what is it in architecture that cannot be expressed on paper? What is this quality of architecture that is hard to express by other means that is not architecture? And as an example of something that fails to express this quality that we hope to find in architecture, I will give you our description. So the description is an example of something that does not give you a good impression. But it's also the description of this pavilion. So the pavilion is situated in the courtyard, like I said. We were curious about the spatial and architecture experience that could result by reusing unaltered materials that already existed at the Singel in the storage. And also by reusing the sloped terrain. So we used the panels of a Jan Fabre exhibition, or actually play, that was clamped in the terrain on the ends and then staggered one behind each other for the walls, one above, one below for the roof. The roof was waterproofed with Ishigami's vinyl floor for his exhibition that he had there. And the roof was then further stabilized with weights of rammed earth blocks that was reused from an old case design exhibition. So the resulting pavilion's form and space gradually changes, which manifests itself in the experience. Something like that. So what I'm trying to say with this failed description of architecture is, I guess you had to be there to understand what I'm talking about. Maybe Stephen, if you want to add.
Yeah, maybe the pavilions, how it works on our senses is a bit built up on a paradox, we felt, because of course it's temporary, but the fact that it's grounded, that it's relating to a certain infrastructural positioning, the fact that it's actually really dealing with the slope of the terrain, makes it become somehow more permanent. And its appearance from the outside, it's a bit too low. Almost from the outside, it gives the impression that it doesn't have an interior. While being in the interior, it looks much bigger and almost not relating to the exterior. So we were wondering, these elements somehow reveal a certain enchantment or magic, perhaps we felt, or a certain depth that contradict somehow what we would normally understand. And we were wondering actually why we invited you also in particular, is that we felt as an architect and a person, you still believe a lot in the quality of space and architecture itself. And in your work, with all modesty, we feel not so much only focus on the recipe, but also a lot on the ingredient with which you engage making your project. So to start, the first maybe concrete question is the reaction on this theme of Unspoken. What is this for you, and what are for you starting points to making your projects on that way, to deal with, let's say, the thing you can almost not draw or connect to in a model, or is there methods you developed along the way?
Okay, so thank you for inviting me to this discussion at first. First of all, when I received those PDF from the SK, and I didn't know this project between two offices, the pavilion on the first third project in this PDF, and I feel sort of how to say. Um, I feel sort of sympathy to this project because I just remember my first solo show at the Tokyo Gallery Ma. It's 9 years ago, and I made a bellfly tower on the courtyard on that gallery. Probably you might know. Um, yeah, I remember I felt a sort of limit to show my architecture in exhibition. This is an issue and always the problem of architecture exhibition. It's almost impossible to show the architect's thought and what is architecture in a small space of the gallery. And so, but yeah, many architects have ever tried in this issue. Some architects make big, huge model like Christian Kertz or Atre Bauer or Jun Igarashi. It was very beautiful. Or I also know some architects who make almost like installation, like Ishigami. Or now I remember the Lakaton Basal, they make a space with a big picture. I saw it in Venice Biennale, I think in the last one. They put the gigantic picture in a big space and they remade their space at in Venice, let's say. Yeah, I think there's a lot of example of the trial of the architects, but I still feel that kind of reproduction of the project is not really exciting for me. So, of course, I tried to show my project at the Gallery Ma, but at the same time, on the courtyard, I made a new project. So the process or sort of how to why why I make architecture and where to build, how to build, uh, to whom, with whom I make a project. That kind of every decision, every process of architecture is very, very exciting in any project. And somehow I tried to show that this kind of my interest towards architecture through that project in the gallery. So yeah, that's why I really feel sympathy. You decided to make a building in your show. Um, I think it's really interesting commonality between us, I think. So actually, I couldn't understand so much about your project itself because, yeah, I have never seen, and maybe you can explain 1 hour, but we have no time. But yeah, for me, rather than such a detail, or rather than your design itself, your how to say motivation and the way of thinking towards exhibition, I really interested in it, and also I feel big sympathy to that. This is one thing, and I also I don't know. It could be answer to your the Stephen's question. But yeah, my interest is to how to say to of course I want to make a good architecture, and I'm happy if people are pleased with it, including clients. But my architecture is always not only for the client but also the people. So even if it's a private project, of course, client is most important, but at the same time, I know the power of architecture, which can encourage the people, and probably the people who will think on project which is close to my project 50 years later in opposite side of the planet. This openness of architecture is really, really important, and I don't like to underestimate this power of architecture. That's why I make a project to the people, not only for the client or not only for the users. So this openness is always a sort of engine in my project. So we need to struggle in from let's say yeah, every aspect. This is very stupid answer, but this this largeness and openness of concept of architecture is really core of the engine of my project. Is this can be answer to your question?
Yes, I think it's a nice nice start. And I remember at the moment when we were studying in Switzerland and you were kind of going from Japan into the world, a lot of your thoughts went to the perception of space and how it relates to the unconsciousness. I remember some text you wrote about the diagonal character of space and how you somehow were investigating this very complex particular element in spatial understanding. I was wondering how did this how is this since then becoming more specific, or how do you think about this? Because we feel it's very deep ingredient, and we were wondering also if you could explain something more about this.
You mean that idea? I think it's I wrote it in my first publication from Inax. Now it's Lixil. And your question is how it's developed?
Yeah, how is developed? Because I can imagine as an initial interest, I at least can understand or read it in your first project really well. I was wondering, I feel at least from my understanding, since I haven't visited your project or too many of your projects regretfully yet, but I can imagine these elements are coming back and are becoming more diverse, this kind of theme, which are quite much related to this this thing you can almost not really draw, or you cannot really. I mean, it's not a common theme so much. So yeah, we are a bit curious how this thing is now, or how it evolved in the last 10 years for you.
10 years for me.
Yeah, or,
I want to know. Last 10 years. Actually, 10 years ago, I was preparing my first solo show at the Toto Irima, and I wrote that book. It's just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Until then, I was really focusing on only practice. I did teach a little bit in Japanese university, but yeah, I think it's the practice is really core, and yeah, I think I was a bit crazy in my architecture. I'm trying even now, but yeah, after the show at the Gallery, I remember in 2012, I was invited to the small symposium in Basel, no, Zurich, and with Christian Kertz and many architects. Also, so Fujimoto, Riken Yamamoto, another Japanese architects were invited, and sort of discussions between maybe 6 architects from Japan and Switzerland. And at the time, I brought my monograph from Toto publisher, and I gave it to some friends in Switzerland and Christian Kertz, of course. And yeah, that was very big things because of that. Maybe I remember a few weeks later, I got an email from Valerio Ojati and invited to the Mendrisio. And after Mendrisio, I had some connection to European architects. And as you know, I made a second publication of conversation with European architects. So that symposium brought me to the more, European context or global context. Until then, I was so domestic architect. Yeah, of course, in the past, until 10 years ago, I tried to make it bigger, as I explained. I was not, how to say, thinking only inside Japan, but in reality, I was really domestic. So after the experience in, especially in Mendrisio, yeah, it's a really big things in my life. And maybe that is one of the most biggest things in my this 10 years, I think. And to my project, I think, yeah, the core of my architecture is not a big change. Maybe program and scale might be a little bit different. Or I'm more interested in collaboration with others, another architects, or collaboration with artists and so on, because of some experience in these 10 years. So maybe I became more tolerant, probably, or I became more open, probably. But the core of architecture, my architecture or interest is it's really the same. And yeah, I remember another story. I brought I took the very important Japanese historian Terinobu Fujimori to my first work, House in the Forest. I think it's very long ago, 13 years ago or more. And yeah, he was very interested in my first work, and I think he was very pleased with it. And but he said a sort of a sad thing or a surprising thing to me. Fujimori said, "Go, this house is it's good, it's interesting, but you cannot you will continue this house in your life. It's a very shocking, no? You will continue this house for your life in your life. It's crazy." And I say, no, I never do the same thing, and I'm trying always something new. But Fujimori say, no, you will do something different project, but core of your architecture is already inside this house. he says. And at the time, I deny it. No, I will find a new concept and I will change it, like Shinohara or Toyo Ito and so on. And I still think so in one side, but in another side, recently I understand what he said, because my first work, the house in the forest, it's very small house, very low cost house, but now I can say it's almost everything of my idea and everything of my, how to say, value of sense of value of mine. It's not about the special composition. It's not about the shape or material and so on. But how to say, the maybe probably the Stephen say in the beginning, the quality of the space or quality of the project. I think my quality was already exist on that house, I can say. And on that sense, I understand what Fujimori say, and it will be always a sort of milestone on my architect's career. What I'm telling, what was the question? I forgot.
No, I think it was very interesting to introduce your core in architecture.
Yes. Cool.
Well, it's maybe a difficult question, I don't know, but how would you describe this core? Is it possible to describe?
Okay. Then I designed that house. I always shout at night, like I want to become an architecture. Of course, I'm a human, so I cannot become an architecture. But always I imagined to be architecture, like I feel this wind or light and so on. So rather than the imagination as a client, I imagine the sense of architecture. That idea, maybe this is a very strange story, but in that sense, I think this imagination will be very, very important and very clear on that project. When I stand on the kitchen of a house in the forest, I really feel the sense of light and the shadow of the branches above the roof through the scale of the architecture. Because of the scale of the roof of that house, I could receive the natural environment of above and the surrounding of that house with the scale of the architecture. And that was not accident. That was really what I was thinking on that project. That's why I say, I want to become an architecture. So that means of course, I need to think about the function and way of using the easy to use, and of course, comfort and so on. Of course, it should be beautiful, but probably the most important part is through the space. I want to open the sense of people with the scale of architecture. That's why it's not like inside the beautiful space, people are enjoying and they feel it comfortable. I'm not interested in such a thing. I want to, I want people to feel the something through the architecture, right? And that was really core of that project. And in any project, I have ever struggled in this direction. So to your question, this is a core. Becoming an architecture is a core of my project, I would say.
Then it's maybe a nice, I don't know, Johannes, do you want to add something, or I could maybe...
Can I ask one question? Sorry. Yeah, also as a person who believe in the practice, I really strongly feel sympathy of your attitude. And I think this thing about the core is very interesting. And you were talking about scale, but often you also talked about time, for example.
Time.
And these things, I think it is also pretty much connected with this unconscious issue, how it influences our feeling. And there, my question is that before you said about people, not only clients, but you're more broad, like human. And there, now you are working pretty much everywhere in the world. And rather than talking about differences, I'm more curious on the commonness of different people or different contexts, different countries through your practice. Yeah, what do you through your practice? How do you feel the commonness of different reality or different people, different countries?
Very abstract question. Yeah.
When you think about project here in Japan or in Europe or I don't know, US or anywhere, what's the same thing or the common thing you always maybe unconsciously think or always comes back in your mind?
Yeah, there's a lot of cultural difference, as you know. You are the architect of the duo who shares different cultures. So you understand and you know more than me about it. But I think, commonness and the important commonality beyond the difference of culture is, I think people trust architecture. People believe architecture. I believe. I think this is a thing. Of course, the client and the people I have ever met is already a kind of people, special people who is interested in architecture very much. So it might, I cannot say it's everybody in this planet, but this, how to say, trust towards architecture is, of course, we cannot make it in one night, one day, because of this history, a time of architecture from 1,000 years have ever made with human, and relationship between human and architecture. This is very, very big things for architect, I think. That's why they are very, very exciting to architecture, and they are really looking forward to architecture. because they trust architecture, they understand the power and the importance of architecture. This is I think, yeah, in any continents and in any culture, they share, I think. And this is very, very significant and important things for architects, I think. Maybe because architecture remains more than our life, the human. Architecture needs to be strong enough, stable enough. That's why, as a result, yeah, architecture have ever developed this trust of the human. So, but on the other hand, I also feel it's really sad now. Some people underestimate this trust of towards architecture. Some people deal with architecture as a tool of politics and economy and so on. And this is very big things in all over the world, and which is very stupid. And we need to again go against to that.
I read the Daisuke told about the common thing in different country, and I read I think some of your article, and you were talking about people are really same in the different country in a very deep level. Mm-hmm. So you feel the similarity in any country or anywhere. Mm-hmm. And we also really feel the same. And I think subconsciously you always think that people are same in the deep level. So mm-hmm. That's why I think people also trust your work and feel comfortable, because that subconscious idea of people same that comfort users in other countries also.
Yeah, this is really beautiful things. Without understanding of Japanese culture so much, they understand our works and projects, right? Because we have a sort of a common sense towards architecture already. This is a very big things which we have human have ever developed with architecture, right? So yeah, we should not underestimate these things of architecture. I think. Steven, shall we? Do you have any another question, or?
No, I'm thinking
how to conclude this discussion.
No, yeah, I'm thinking the same.
Can I try one?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if it becomes conclusion, but I think it's interesting that, as I understood, also through the conversation with you past days, that your interest is not to make architecture, and then this practice of making architecture is as if it's like a research of how you communicate with the world, or how you understand the world, and then make a link not only about you and the world, but also I think it's again abstract, but the connection between the human and the world. And in that sense, I am thinking that so making architecture itself is not the purpose, and I agree with it. And in that case, for you, what does it mean to do architectural practice, or what is the part of this architectural practice in your life, or how you position this architectural practice in your life?
I think that's a good question, and I totally agree with you, your hypothesis. And yeah, it's true. Of course, architects need to make. We need to finish the project, and we need to make. We need to complete the project. But that is not the purpose. That is not the main goal for architects. I think. Rather than such a thing, through the project, through the thinking, we feel something freedom, or we find some new freedom through the project, or through the space which we make. We found something totally new sense from the space. That is also very important, not only on the table, but also from the space and the construction. Conversation after the completion with client, I discover a lot from the conversation with the client after completion. So yeah, the project architecture is just a part of a process to understand the world as Daisuke say. And yeah, but at the same time, I need to say, without project, so let's say without completion of architecture, we cannot struggle so much, right? If it's just a project, if it's just a process, we cannot make such a big effort, I think. That's why, in that sense, we need the architecture in order to struggle with. So yeah, of course, you also understand this. We always go beyond our imagination compared with the starting time of that project, right? Through the process for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, we always go travel in long distance, right? That is very beautiful things. So through the project, we find and we can grow up with people, right? That is maybe purpose. And maybe question to the Daisuke, of the Daisuke, I need to answer why I do like this. Maybe because I'm very interested in human, how human think and how human live. I'm very curious, and I really want to develop it as an architect. So that is a point in my practice.
Fantastic conclusion.
Okay.
I think. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's the 1 hour.
Perfect.
Very inspiring.
Yeah, just 1 hour.
Yeah, but yeah, very nice. Thank you a lot. It was very fascinating to once hear you more specifically talk about it. I guess best would be with a beer in a bar, of course, but in any case.
Next time Steven has to pay.
Yeah. It's my time.
Your time. Okay.
Yes.
So see you and congratulations on your exhibition. It's finished already?
Next week.
Next
Ending
week.
of next week.
Okay.
Yes. Then the demolition will start also of the pavilion.
Okay. But it might be pity as because of this pandemic probably. But I'm happy to participate in your project in this discussion.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. See you.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.